Hey guys, this is feedback for the week of March 31st, 2010. No, I am not Adam Sessler. He is off in a fever dream. Speaking of Yetis, and I think this is where he goes when he goes to get his obscure references when he runs out. He says a fever dream.
He takes a bail from feedback.
He kind of wanders off, and we all just understand he shows up in a week. This week I'm joined by Andrew Pfister, Abby Heppy, and Matt Kyle. We have all just returned from PAX, and we are all exhausted, but we have found our way into the studio anyway. Are you guys all rested up? I know I am still slightly exhausted.
No, absolutely
not. You
not.
guys had a later flight than we did, too.
We had to leave our hotel.
Earlier.
I have no voice anymore. We had to leave our hotel at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm so tired.
You sound like you're really up to this.
Yeah. Totally.
And that was it was something when you get on a 7 a.m. flight and you go through all that and you land and it's 10:30 a.m. and you've been awake for 9 hours.
And you were at the Cheers bar the night before?
Yeah.
Well, that was a point where I'm like, just before I left, I'm like, oh, better get my wallet and stuff out of my pants from last night. And by last night, I mean an hour and a half ago. It was a rough morning.
Did you all manage to stay up all night? I know that's usually the plan.
No, I didn't make it.
We were going to try, and we failed
I started
miserably.
reading, and I was out.
Good job. But before we get to PAX, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everyone that came out to my panel the first day, to the X-Play panel. It was such a...
To Adam's panel with Hal
To Adam's panel.
Yeah.
We had 3 different panels there at PAX, and it was an enormous turnout for all of them. And
that special 4th panel at the bar. That was my favorite
that's true.
panel.
The
TZ's
impromptu
Lounge.
Twitter
It was
meetup.
really nice to meet our fans. They seem to be really cool people.
Yeah, it was really great. We'll get to a little more about PAX in a little bit, but I think first we're going to start with the news. And Sony kind of made a little bit waves this week talking about the fact that they kind of announced in a Q&A during the Engadget show that Sony's head of R&D, Richard Marks, said that they had looked at the same technology that Microsoft has using for Project Natal and said that, we looked at it and we decided not to do it.
It's cool, but it's not as cool as what we got.
I mean, the gist, I have like this long quote in front of me. We tried a lot of different 3D cameras. I love the 3D camera technology. Personally, I like the technology part of it. We worked with our game teams, blah, 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 iToy. Essentially, kind of dulling it down is that they've already got the iToy. They didn't see what having a really nice 3D camera did for them, and instead they kind of went with having a peripheral. I know that, Andrew, you've had a chance to play with the PlayStation Move. Do you think it makes sense that they kind of went, even though they didn't plan it this way, that they went in a different direction?
Well, I kind of have to trust Richard Marks and the Ito guys because they've had a good running start on this since PS2i. Without having played Intel, really, I can't make a direct comparison, but I like the concept of having something tactile in my hand in combination with the motion control.
Yeah, I mean, Abby, you were there too at the same event. Like, do you? Nintendo argument is that you need something in your hand that is, the direction that Microsoft's going in, that without a camera, that you're the controller, that people need something. The Wiimote was designed around the concept of a remote. Did you feel like having something tangible was important? I know we haven't really played with Natalia, but do you feel like that philosophy will kind of hold up compared to what Sony's doing?
I understand that philosophy. Sorry. And I haven't had a chance to play Natal yet. Looking forward to trying that at E3. But I wasn't having as much success when I was back in this space with when you're pointing at the screen. And I think for railed shooters, I like having, something. But again, that's light gun technology. That's been around for a long time. I mean, pre-Duck Hunt. And if they can really pull it off where it's moving well, I see the value in having something, tangible to hold. But like Andrew pointed out, until we get our hands on both, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to speculate on that.
Yeah, and I think the whole camera part is really interesting. That's one thing that kind of Natal and PlayStation Move have in common is that they're both taking advantage of a camera. Matt, have you used the iToy at all? I know I've used it a couple of times, but I can't say that I've used it for more than maybe pulling it out with like some family members when I've just had a copy of it around.
Well, I used the iToy for the Eye of Judgment, which was
I forgot about that game.
Kind of I mean, that's why I have one, is because I bought that because
that's sort of looked at as like the best sort of I guess hardcore gaming application.
Yeah,
it
was an odd little thing. I went a little nuts on that game for a while. And I played Sega did that one on the PS2 where it was like the kind of the party game iToy version of some of their old franchises.
But they had didn't they have Monkey Ball that you could kind of
Monkey Ball.
push the Monkey
you
Ball
rolled
with
it over and
iToy?
it was like a Virtua Fighter thing, and it worked fine. And I don't know. I like the idea of having something in my hand more, I think. Also because Natal's uses so far seem so nebulous. We're going to have to wait till E3 to find out more about that. But I'm interested to see if this is even going to be an issue, because in the videos at E3 last year for Natal, you saw like, the kid like scanning his skateboard and using that as his kind of controller, and like, people that, the idea that it can recognize objects in your hands. I mean, who knows how real that is or how well that works. I mean, if it can play by just my hands, or if like say I have a sword game and I can just grab like a stick and use that as my controller and the Natal will recognize it, awesome.
And I loved that moment at the press conference too, especially because just after, I know everyone references, but Tony Hawk coming out with the Tony Hawk Ride controller, just after they said, don't worry, you don't need to buy this, you can just scan it in. It actually points to a user comment we have from Wander Canada or...
Wander Canada, I think.
Wander Canada?
That's the better sentiment.
Wander Canada, that sounds
Or
more...
Wand Canada. They want to cast a spell to redo Canada?
I think we're gonna go with the third one. He says, wouldn't it be just as easy for Natal to adopt a series of game-specific peripherals that are recognized by the device? Imagine that buying a copy of your favorite game came packaged with a sword and shield or some kind of in-game device. Instead of having the colored ball look different on screen, just have the object actually in your hands in real life and represent the effects of the object within the game world. And I think that's a possibility, but I also am much more excited by what the videos seem to show was that you could pick something up in your home and have that be recognized.
That makes more sense than having specific pack-ins for specific
But
games.
I bet you someone will do that.
But what makes even
someone
more
will.
sense is if you can use like your random skateboard or sword collection, which I'm sure many of us will have. Or you could go out and buy your official Microsoft Sword controller, which has a special barcode that the Natal scans and gives you a bonus in game when you use it.
You could have a stick that maybe that's your lightsaber for the mythical lightsaber game.
Mike would be standing in front of my TV with a stick.
That's kind of what. But it. I mean, the idea is, I guess, the camera will make it look cool. You'll just know at the end of the day that you're standing
holding
in
a
front of.
stick.
Just close the curtains. That's the
Amazing.
rule.
You're playing this epic action game with like this major sword, and the power goes out, and you're left in the dark holding a stick.
And that's when you reevaluate your life. Reevaluate your life.
I mean, that seems to be the direction they're kind of going in. I mean, they may have these sort of fancier individual peripherals that you purchase or do. I do love kind of the idea of that. There's kind of redeem codes that will, sort of apply to different objects you have in your home. But that's sort of
Is someone at Activision writing this down?
Oh, God. We've introduced just a whole new store into the marketplace.
I'm
with that
blaming
idea.
you, Klepek.
But I mean, that's one of those features that I've secretly thought we haven't heard much about, and I've wondered if that was one of those. Yeah, you could do this, but then an actual application, are we going to? Because I can see that as being a really cool tech, but then actually getting into the games, we're not going to see that as much.
Or think of something as old as like the Super Mario 3 Advanced stuff on the GBA where you scan in the cards.
Oh my
Just
God.
imagine a whole new subset of game like accessories and peripherals that
that's
actually
exactly
have
what I had in mind.
value
Yeah.
in the games.
So you just
boy.
hold up cards and then we recognize because that's how.
No,
Because that's how I have
judgment.
judgment work, too.
Okay,
But if I go to the Nintendo World Store and I buy like a Mario plushie or a Chain Chomp soccer ball, and that can scan in.
Like if you had a
something-
Chain Chomps, if you could take your Chain Chomp soccer ball from the Nintendo World Store and then scan that into like Mario Strikers, like
As a
I don't know.
concept,
yeah.
we're
maybe.
never going to be able to not spend a ton of money on everything these
and
companies
that's
are
that,
putting
and
out.
they know
are we?
that.
And we should
They know that.
also try and make it a point not to come up with new marketplaces for people on the show.
Yeah,
They
can we
immediately go,
get
maybe
away
stop
from
helping.
that?
Feedback.
They're just
Part
like,
of the problem.
They'll pay. They'll pay for this. They'll pay for this. They'll pay for this.
On the plus side, we'll get some really heavy industry hitters listening.
Exactly. And I think what's interesting now is that, going into E3, we already know now that Microsoft's going to be doing sort of two different events at E3. They're going to be doing a Project Natal specific event. And I think the interesting thing about that is they have labeled it as though that'll be E for everyone. So anything we see at that event, is going to be at least there might be Project Natal games at their Microsoft proper press event, but everything we see there, they seem to be sort of creating a dividing line. Sort of what I was thinking Sony might do, but didn't. Sony decided to say we're going to do the mainstream and the hardcore at the same time. Microsoft seems to be drawing a line in the sand, but I still think they're going to be doing both. They're just going to treat them as separate audiences rather than we're doing both at the same time. And I don't know. Like, do you think that's a smart move, Abby?
I appreciate that. I mean, I don't need them to cater to me and say, hey, we're going to make this hardcore game. And I think I've probably said it many times on feedback. Just don't lie to me. If you're going to do your E for everyone and casual, just say it and don't pretend like you're trying to throw me a bone with it too. I don't care.
It seems like they're saying, we're going to do both, but we're going to sort of differentiate the two rather than consider them in the same category.
And it's probably important for their initial debut having that family-friendly thing first on Sunday, just so you get in the mainstream press as being all this family
And
stuff.
it's also
Nintendo
just what
likes
Adam
stuff.
was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just beating everybody else to the punch and getting that out of the way.
See,
you know?
that's the thing, you know. I mean, I know we always joke about. It seems like we're hearing about E3 earlier and earlier every year, and then not only that, now we're getting separate press events for different parts of the different things that they're presenting, which I know makes Andrew a very happy boy.
All of us, really.
Can we talk about something else?
I know, and the event's on a Sunday too.
Yeah, Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to church?
No, that's me. That's me time. That's
It's a very private time for Andrew. But and, I mean, again, the problem with Project Natal is that so much of this is just random speculation. But I don't know. That's sort of the thing that gets me excited about Natal is that you can sort of speculate so much about it, and I guess it'll just be see how much it lives up to it.
Now you're going to the Church of Microsoft.
Ooh.
Sunday.
Maybe we'll all kneel when we get there too.
my offering is presented in Gamerscore points.
Yes.
And the other story we're talking about this week is something that Abby and I have been talking about, is that we had an exclusive with Bungie, or at least to talk about their player investment system, which is for Halo Reach. Bungie is essentially doing. It's been a long time since Bungie's been able to sort of make a splash with multiplayer, because Halo 3 came out, but that was not too long after the launch of the machine, so a lot of they kind of got themselves up and running, but there's a lot of technical hurdles in being a game at launch or the first year. So they kind of set themselves, and Bungie always sets the bar, but it's always been in terms of matchmaking and sort of ease of experience and who you get matched up with. Since Modern Warfare, the rise of the RPG element of multiplayer shooters has come in, and that's pretty much established by Modern Warfare, and like leveling up, getting new abilities, changing your character, and that's sort of the persistent system. And Halo's take away from this is something called a player investment system. So essentially, in the player investment system, you're building up a character, but the character itself isn't changing. Whereas in Modern Warfare, you're getting things. When you jump into a match, you have to go against someone who's level 50. You're not on the same
You don't
ground
have the
as
same
them.
weapons
Yeah,
or
and so
gear.
fundamentally, Halo, they're treating it as a different concept. And they reiterated several times when we kind of poked them about, well, don't you want people to be different?
Is there anything that's going to be
So I
adding
know as a
for your
Modern Warfare
abilities
fan,
here?
that was
Yeah.
something that I know that Abby really likes, because you can it's a real difference in your character at how it plays from level 1 to 50. And with Bungie, they're not doing that with Halo, and they said if we did do that, it wouldn't be Halo. And that seems right now to be sort of a point of contention with this, whether that's the right lesson to take away from it. And so, in a nutshell, essentially, as you're leveling up, you're gaining currency, and you can buy shoulder pads and customizations. They're going to be putting in like hundreds of different items to create your own unique Spartan, but
But it's all cosmetic.
it's all
Yeah, it's all
cosmetic.
cosmetic.
Nothing really changed. And that seems to be based on the way the readers responded. And I know the way that when Abby and I were talking about, that seems to be where people are wondering if that's the right move. I know Abby, as someone who's like a huge multiplayer fan, is customization enough for you to make you sort of invest as a character?
It's funny because there generally isn't a lot of customization. I mean, outside of like, your weapons and your loadouts. But in terms of your appearance of what you're playing as, there's really not that much of it, especially in the games that I play. And I think that's neat, but I don't know if it's enough. There's many games where I would like to be able to like have my character look like me or whatever. I was reading how a lot of times there aren't female characters because that's building a whole nother,
But that's why they have the unicorn emblem.
Yeah.
That's what we were told was sort of the concession. But
That's why I'm My Little Pony. I don't know if it's enough for me yet. I mean, I think it is really cool, and I like to see those elements come in, and I like to see people do something different with multiplayer, but I'm not 100% sold yet.
I mean, Matt, are you much of a bigger Halo fan? Like, I play a little bit of multiplayer, but pretty much past the first week, everyone gets better than me. And this was kind of what I told Bungie, was that this speaks to me a little bit more, in so much as I get intimidated knowing that I'm going to have to invest so many hours to get to level 50. And so customization, I'm not saying it's going to make me play more, but it does speak to me more as someone who's not as constant of a player.
I don't know. I mean, I'm decent at Halo. I'm not great. But like I found like in the end, I just didn't care that much about the cosmetic changes. Like and again, because everyone has them, like, and who's going to be playing this game, especially a game that moves as fast as Halo, and notice that I had a certain shoulder pad on? Like, what's that for? Like, it's like, at least in like Modern Warfare or something like, or Bad Company 2, if you get killed by some crazy gun that someone high levels unlocked, at least I noticed, oh, he killed me with that. Like, that dude's been playing a while. Like, and that doesn't really bother me so much. I mean, I can see why someone would be bothered by, like, it feels kind of unfair that if you have a full-time job and you can't play 4 hours a night, you don't have that weapon, and so you lost because you're not as big of a nerd, kind of. You know, I don't know. It's like, but it just doesn't bother me as much, and I'd rather have something functional to play with rather than a new bow to put on my battle armor hair.
I would
So
like,
I know you don't. You're
I
kind
would
of like
like
me. You don't.
something-
We don't really play that much multiplayer. But is this supposed to speak to someone like us? Does that sound more appealing?
I
to
totally
jumping
understand
in?
why they're doing it based on the furor over the recon armor.
And that's what they said was.
Yeah,
you know,
they brought that
Luke
up.
Smith, former
and that a
game
lot of
writer,
times
was like, yeah.
they don't have the time to play like that, and they would like something
Yeah.
like this in the game.
I would like something that helps me be better at Halo because I'm absolutely terrible at Halo multiplayer. So anything that can help me with that, and it's not going to be anything cosmetic, but
Well, one of the things they are talking about that might speak to that is that they're trying to also find ways to better identify players, so that when you pull up someone's profile, you might think, oh, I'm really good at this. But what they're trying to do is take the back end data and have that turn into a description of your playing style. So, I was talking to Luke Smith, who's a former writer, and now he's working on the player investment system over at Bungie. He knows that I'm not very good at Halo, so when I play with him, I tend to be an assist character, and I'll drive. I'll do sort of the bitch work, just because sometimes I like to play with my friends, but I know I'm not any good. Now, sometimes if you play with someone, they may not be honest about what they're good or bad at.
Right.
So what Bungie's trying to do with this is have player profiles and these are connected to medals, so you can you can earn these things. So it might be like, if you're a really good sniper, you can unlock sniper medals, but that's also reflected in your profile as an attribute.
Okay.
So you won't be able to earn these medals unless you're good at sniping. But also as a consequence of this, when you pull up, say, like someone's profile, or you get into a match, you can say, okay, who's good, who's bad? We got a stranger. What does his stats say about him? How can we sort of assign him within the group?
so if I'm incentivized as a support class, because that's actually in multiplayer what I'm best at, like in a one-on-one shootout, 9 times out of 10 I will lose, even if I get the jump in the first shot, just because I freak out and I can't keep my aim properly. But if I'm playing something like Capture the Flag, or like a domination thing where I have to assist or I have to support someone and cover someone, I'm good at that. So if I'm incentivized to keep playing like that, I won't feel alienated when my kill death ratio is like at the bottom.
Yeah, well, user Kyoput, I'm gonna go with that. He says, it sounds like a lot what Bad Company 2 does with its class system. I'm not a guy who racks up a ton of kills in Battlefield, but I play the engineer class well enough to level up at a proficient rate. Even though I rarely lead the squad in kills, I always rack up a lot of points. It's really how all multiplayer should be. Man, you guys have both played Battlefield. Like, does that kind of speak to what the user's talking about?
Definitely. I mean, I play as an engineer, and a whole lot of my experience points have come from repairing people's tanks. Actually, one of my favorite things to do in Bad Company 2 is like, and I've played with Abby a lot, and we like I'll jump in some like a lot of times the leader will like have like a tank fetish, and he'll drive around in the tank and blow stuff up, and I like to jump in that tank and just hang out and gun, and then, like, if he needs it, I'll like pop out and repair it, and I get a lot of XP for that. And I feel like Bad Company 2 is very good about rewarding me for playing the game in a useful but not standard way.
Right.
Yeah.
Halo doesn't really have that element to it, and I don't know if it really should have it, because I mean, when you're that popular, clearly you're doing something right.
Basically, if something in Halo Reach has it where I'm playing the same way as I play like a medic in Team Fortress,
Yeah.
perfect.
And I would have to
Because-
think that looking at the kind of the class-based appearance that looks like Reach, even just based on that first like if official art, it looks like you've got your heavy and your soldier and your scout and your sniper. I mean, it looks like they're going to support that to some degree.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I'm totally blanking on what the term was. Abby, what was the thing called where it's it's challenges, right?
Challenges.
So challenges is one of the things that I think,
Daily and weekly.
daily and weekly challenges that kind of speaks to someone like me who would want to jump in every once in a while but get sort of intimidated by the skill level of players. And so challenges are essentially designed to be after the game's been out for a little while, that they're daily and weekly, and that speaks to whether they would take a couple of hours to invest in, or a couple of days, or maybe just an hour. But the challenges are sort of like little meta games that they set up in multiplayer and in the campaign, that you could like jump in and kill X amount of enemy, or they'll set up a rule set that's okay, this is this battle, but now we're switching around the dynamics of it, and you can go and enter points through that. And it's like completing these tiny challenges that those stories you might have in multiplayer if they happened out dynamically, but if you're not someone that can get invested and have those experiences, they're going to kind of set those up for you and feel like you accomplished something if you can only jump in for an hour.
Yeah.
And that sort of
And they'll
spoke
do
to me
all
as
the
something
setup for you.
interesting.
It'll be like, just seriously hit the button and you're in.
But yeah, so I think it is interesting. I do sort of side with Bungie in the idea that, maybe that does fundamentally change Halo, and if they have this fan base that I don't think they need to necessarily appeal to, like the guys on Modern Warfare, because the games are so different that I don't think they necessarily need to be making any changes as much as sort of keeping up with what keeps people hooked past like month one or something like that.
Yeah.
And clearly
I-
they're not losing sales.
Yeah.
No,
it.
no.
But I think they're really targeting those people who don't have as much, time and energy to play, and I think that's a good idea. It's nice. I mean, even though they made the comparison to Battlefield here, the difference that I see between that and Battlefield Bad Company too is that. Yeah, even though I've had enough time to level up some of my stuff, there is always that jerk who's like level 20 something, who has like everything unlocked. And when I'm just trying to level up, my early stuff just gets me every time and drives me crazy. They're always snipers. It's always a sniper.
Yeah, well,
Always.
When I cry, it's always a sniper.
well, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about Halo Reach in the weeks to come because the beta launches in early May, and then not long after that, it sounds like E3 will probably be our kind of proper single player reveal.
Yeah,
That's
and
almost
That's
like a
close.
month.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
close.
oh god, don't say it. Don't.
I know. Yet another multiplayer shooter to try and figure out. But I kind of want to circle back around to PAX East.
No, you mentioned E3, and I'm like, no.
No, I know. I know. I didn't want to freak everyone out. But go back to PAX East, the event we're just kind of getting past now. Now, Abby, you actually grew up in Boston. I'd never been to Boston.
I went to
before.
college in Boston.
So you went to college in Boston. So what was it kind of like going back?
Cold.
To go for
Way
yes.
colder than it is in LA now. Seriously, I have like no tolerance anymore. It was really nice going back. I love that city. So I hope they keep doing this year after year. They might need more space, I think.
They are
after
getting
this
more
year.
space. It's already
Yeah, they were
already
going to go to the
confirmed that
other
there were like
convention center.
30,000 people that showed up to PAX East this year, and they sold out before the show was in, and people were selling them on eBay to try and get into
A lot of people are complaining about lines of panels. Like the X-Play one,
Yeah, there were
we were
people
full
lining
30
up.
minutes ahead of time.
There were
and there
people
was-
lining
and
up
a lot
like
of
2 hours before. Oh my god!
And a lot of times they had to cut off the lines because there was just nowhere to put the people. It's not that maybe some people might leave and you might be able to get in. There was just nowhere to queue up anymore,
Yeah,
so they had to move
at some
them.
point there were, I think it was one of them, the Penny Arcade or the Will Wheaton keynote. There were lines to get in line.
And they would say, you'd have people with signs that said, "Come back in 30 minutes, and we'll let you know if anything's changed." But it's just like there's nowhere to put you, so come back. I mean, that's really encouraging because it's I think a lot of people kind of really wanted to see E3 become open up to the public. And I don't know, having been to PAX a couple of years in Seattle and now being to PAX East, I mean, Andrew, doesn't it strike you that this is probably way better than it would have been if E3 was public?
The vibe at PAX is much better than something at E3, which there's a business sense of decorum to it, even though it's like loud and crazy trade show. PAX, everyone there is there for the same reason, and that's just to hang out and be with friends who like video games.
And for people that want to go to E3, like this was the first year for PAX East. Next year, you will see more publishers. You will see, a larger space and more games. I think this is always the year where it's like, okay, we've got to prove ourselves, And it's great because the first year, all these like indie developers and everybody gets to see their games, and there's a couple big ones on the floor, but like, it's next year. I'm sure with the success that this year was, there'll be a lot more support. From other publishers.
It seemed like a lot of publishers and developers would send one person to go scout it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And then immediately, once they got there, they were like, oh, crap, we really should have done something here. But I mean, that's, the same as Comic-Con's kind of become about video games, that you kind of, there's no reason to go all in and then have it backfire when you could just wait it out. It's not like PAX is going anywhere. If anything, PAX is probably going worldwide.
I think I could have predicted it though, because like the nice part about the East Coast is every city is so close and so easily accessible that you just, rather than Seattle, you just have a ton of places to drag people in from.
But it was kind of nice that happened because it let a lot of like more independent and smaller companies kind of put their
Shine.
games way out there, way out in front.
And they do limit the booth space that
Yeah.
you're allowed to have, so it really gives like everyone kind of an equal opportunity to show their
I saw
stuff.
both Nathan Fouts, who was the ex-Insomniac Games guy, who did, he's got his new game, Dune Buggy, Shoot One Up, and he also did the other really weird shooter for Xbox Indies that can't remember the name of, but then there was also James Silva, the guy that did Dishwasher, that won the X&A contest, and those guys both had booths.
Yeah.
And they're clearly probably not going to be able to afford them next year because PAX is going to get bigger, but just to have been there and see that those guys could be there selling merch, showing their game, talking to gamers, like that was really exciting. And that's one of the things that I hope PAX is able to hold on to as it continues to grow.
I
is
think
not,
they seem to
not
understand
losing sight of that.
Yeah,
that,
they're very aware of that, and I also love that it incorporates tabletop games, card games, D&D, like Warhammer. There's a miniatures section. It encompasses all things gaming nerddom and not just video games, and it does it in a non-corporate but efficient way.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, some of the panels I thought were some of the best panels I've seen.
Did you?
anywhere.
What did you get to catch?
Why-
Other than our all fantastic.
Well, that
panels.
was pretty much all I saw. But
Oh,
I thought
I'm
Adams.
glad that you can
You had to
lavish at us
ask.
with praise.
I thought Adam's panel with Hal Halpin was really interesting, and
Yeah.
I can honestly say I'm not going to say it about X Play's panel because I was on it and I have no objectivity. But for Adam's Hal Halpin panel, I would not have been all that upset to have waited an hour and a half for that because I thought it was a very interesting panel and it covered very relevant stuff. And they were willing to give both Adam and Hal gave very candid answers to a lot of people who ask a lot of questions. It is clearly there's a lot of anxiety in the
Yeah.
community right now about the 3D gaming thing, about the social gaming farm bill thing, about
the future of the hardcore.
the
Yeah.
DRM.
We saw that
Yeah.
at the X-Play panel too. Like everyone hated 3D stuff. Everyone hated
Bigfoot,
all sorts of stuff.
Bigfoot. I'm now you're making me look crazy, but Bigfoot just walked by.
We're just gonna
What?
move. I don't know what
How
Abby's
tired are
talking
you?
about.
I hate you guys.
Wow,
Yeah, we're just gonna move on.
a little San Andreas moment there.
I mean, Andrew, you've been to PAX and PAX East.
Yeah.
Was there anything big or different that you noticed between the two, or was it pretty much the same vibe?
It's thankfully seemed pretty much the same. I was worried like if the timing was off because it's in March of the weather, or I've never been to Boston, so I don't know. Like actually, I've never been really to the East Coast, so I don't know what it's
Yeah,
like.
this was
but
your between an event you were in New York City
Yeah.
and being in Boston. This was like your big East Coast adventure.
flew to New York, 5 a.m., flew up to Boston, started PAX right away for 3 days. It was great. But no, people on the West Coast, same as people on the East Coast. Gamers are gamers everywhere. Is what I noticed.
I mean,
Less cosplayers and then PAX Prime, but I think that's because it was
was
really,
really
cold.
cold.
there was a guy. There was also a guy in a sweet Muppet costume. I can't remember.
Yes!
Oh
Sweetums.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Sweetums.
that was amazing. I mean, for you guys, it's PAX is so cool because it's kind of also, as we said, we thank like the fans for coming out to the panels. It is really weird, fun, and exciting to meet the people that you sort of write to because you can sort of get cynical very easily that the comments can be very negative or people disagreeing with you, but then you meet that like one person that really appreciates what you do and says something. And it makes it makes the whole thing worth it. I mean, Abby, did you have any moments like that where people recognized you?
Yeah, I signed an autograph. It was really exciting. I've never, And then someone else took a picture with me, and I was really like, "Are you sure?" And then as soon I handed the camera to Matt, and he's like, "Oh, you're Matt Kyle from Feedback," and it was like, "Whoa, sweet!" Like
it's
that was
nice.
just kind of cool. It was nice.
I'd say one of my favorite moments of the whole week was probably when we all walked as a group to our panel before you guys were all with
Yeah.
us and we walked in our group. We had all our X-Play swag to give out, and Adam and Morgan and Blair and everybody, and we're walking down past the line, and everybody just starts cheering and freaking out, and it's like if you heard that every day when the show aired, you
Yeah, it would be really
you probably
exciting.
wouldn't get so cynical about it.
We
But
are
it
working
was,
on a live studio
yeah.
audience for
Yeah,
feedback.
it's very
Yeah.
appreciated.
But I'm always with Adam, so I'm always just taking pictures of him. I probably took like 1,000 pictures at PAX. It was
I know
really
you kept
funny.
trying to photobomb all the ones with
I did.
Adam jumping in the background.
because I'm always the one taking him, so it's nice when I can get behind and be like,
Well, it was
you
so
know.
great too. Is that the last second? We all decided, okay, let's have a meetup at a bar. We didn't have anything formal set up. We had to have a room set aside, and I'm sure next year that we'll have something a little more.
We
Yeah,
drank
way bigger.
all the beer in that bar.
They,
Yeah.
they
That
were
bar had
running
no
down the
idea.
street to buy beer at other places.
And
like,
it's a testament to the coolness of the people that showed up to the event. But also, I kept cracking up because Abby, you used to frequent that bar,
Yeah.
and that's not usually how populated. I mean, this place was.
no, it was the first time I think that
packed.
they've ever been filled to capacity.
They,
I was like, I'm sorry, guys,
They
I
cut
should've
off the
called.
line. I had developer friends calling me from outside saying, "Hey, the bar's full. Can you get me in?" And I was like, "I don't think there's any strings I could pull, but just hold tight." I mean, it was just really impressive, and it's also sort of a cool testament to social networks. As much as you can kind of get down about that sort of stuff, that within 12 hours we were able to get a bunch of really cool people to hang out at a place like that, and there were no weirdos. That's always sort of your fear. That
No,
you send
everybody
it,
was
you send
really
it out into
cool.
the wild,
Yeah.
and
But that's a constant at PAX. I found that
Yeah.
that there really aren't weirdos there, and even if they are weirdos, they're very under control. Like there's something about those. I don't know. Something
Very
about those rules
restrained weirdos.
they hand out at the beginning, where it's just no one's a weirdo, no one's a jerk. Everyone's pretty cool, and it's one
Except
of
for
those
that
things.
kid
where-
who was trying to steal breach code.
well, yeah, that kid can go suck it, but
No, I like the balls to do that in front of guys who
Yeah.
are spec ops. Like, I mean, everybody who works on that game is like,
don't
oh, God.
try to steal the game that's being made by Marines.
Yeah.
like that's a pretty
Really?
good piece of advice. I would say.
Or if you do, don't sign on to your Xbox Live public
And go
gamer
play
tag
Modern
right
Warfare.
after that. 'Cause I feel
Also,
like they might be looking for you.
don't steal multiplayer only games before they come out.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
At least
Like,
have a little respect for the guy. We're talking about the Metal Gear Solid. Someone stole a disc of Metal Gear Solid 2 before it was finished at E3 a number of years ago, and then went and sold it on eBay. So he's an idiot too. But at least that was a game you could maybe play at home. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
know what he was gonna
like
do
every
with
part
this.
of this kid's idea was flawed.
Could we talk about the game itself?
We can talk because let's
Yeah.
get on to
So
it.
exciting.
There weren't a whole lot of new games at PAX, but Breach, the new game from Atomic Games, 6 Days in Fallujah developer. This seems it's a downloadable game, right? For
Yeah, it's a
XBLA?
downloadable
downloadable.
game. It's $15.
$15 for some amazing tech.
Yeah.
So you guys
Yeah.
are actually really excited about
They
this.
built their own engine. It's the guys who work on the game were either Marines or Spec Ops or like they all have and they make outside of this kind of simulations, I guess, for the military, and they built their own engine for this game, and it's rather impressive. The physics in it are insane.
And the deteriorating cover, like it's not just destructible cover; it's deteriorating. You can shoot out individual bricks and walls.
So it doesn't
to
feel
create.
feel like you're watching 3 different layers
Yeah.
of
No,
destru- where
it's not
like
layers at all.
Layer
It's like
1's
you can,
gone,
you can
layer
literally
2's
shoot
gone.
out different bricks in a wall
Wow.
in a house,
But
so you
you-
can stick your gun through it and shoot from
You
there.
really have to see the president of the company, Dave Trachtenberg, do the demo because he's like, where are they going to go? They're going to go through the door. We don't go through the door. Like that's how I come home in a body bag. We go around the right side.
My wife hates it
So
when I
he-
do
so
that.
he's
it's
he's
like-
a spec ops too.
Yep.
Yeah, he's former
wow.
Spec
We made
Ops.
some plans to go shoot some guns in the desert. They are,
Hey.
but they knew everything. But it was interesting because they were really getting into the kind of psychology of it all as well.
Yeah.
And they have this great one of the bits of one of the abilities that you have in the game through technology that I really can't speak to in real life, but exists. But it pretty much shows you where snipers are. It reflects back. So as a sniper in the game, you can only take 1 or 2 shots, and then you have to move because then they know exactly where you are, and you're going to get
Yeah,
shot.
no more sniper camping.
No
in
more
this one.
sniper camping.
Is it more Counter-Strike esque in that one shot and you're down it,
Not-
or
No, it's like
Quite.
the sniper detector thing is like so sensitive to when somebody shoots that you can if you take a shot, you can pretty much assume someone saw where you are. So you'd better move.
But I mean, in terms of like the actual damage that you're taking, no, it's not. It's not quite one shot. You're dead, but close.
You don't want to be caught in the open.
You don't want to be caught in the open. It's really, really very tactical
And
and
the-
using kind of real world tactics to get through. Although I would not call it like a
Simulation,
simulator.
yeah.
But damaging structures matters, and falling debris matters, and if you use a charge to blow out a wall and a brick hits you in the head, you're going to die.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
yes.
that's
it's-
pretty awesome.
There's a lot to it. Just take out supports on things, and
it'll
the suppressing fire mechanic. Maybe you could.
it'll
saw
make
that
you
more than I did.
think more when you're
about
playing,
what's
I think.
around
about
you,
what's
and
around you,
ra-
about what
rather
you're
than just,
doing.
I'm behind a wall.
Even just
so I'm
playing
great.
it, like I was not breaking. I was not breaking my FPS mechanic. Like, and part of the demo was Dave Trachtenberg saying like all the things that FPSs generally make you do are idiotic, and that's going to get you killed in this game, and here's why. But even then, like me and another guy like kind of ran into each other, and we did the first person shooter circle strafe thing, and we're just completely missing each other because it doesn't work that way. And finally, the first person to kind of sit still, take cover, and aim won.
You just described how I die in 100% of. So I get caught up.
I'm not sure about Breach. Might not be the
Yeah.
game for you. I mean, did they speak at all to? We haven't seen too many really dedicated first-person shooters relying on multiplayer as downloadable games. We've seen some smaller ones, but did they kind of talk about maybe some of their fears over what happens if out of the gate they've got troubles? It's kind of hard
yeah.
to.
I mean, no
for
battle
downloadable
plan.
games, that's tough to recover from.
Yeah, well, I mean, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy, but
Yeah.
I mean, these guys seem pretty organized and I mean,
They
I
seem
hope
pretty
it works.
confident too.
Yeah,
I hope it works as well.
This summer, right?
Yeah,
this summer there's some amazing stuff hitting Xbox Live this summer.
yeah, and well,
Just-
onto that we've got Comic Jumper.
Yes,
Yeah.
the new game from Pixel.
Twisted
Pixel.
Yeah, they
From
previously
Maw,
did
Explosion Man.
Explosion Man, and the
Yeah.
Maw. Yeah,
And
which.
The coolest thing about that is Josh Baer, who is the co-founder of Twisted Pixel. Comic Jumper, a lot of what they're doing stems from drawings and kind of a character that he had made up in 7th grade. And this is kind of the fulfillment.
The hero looks like something
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
would have drawn in 7th
and
grade.
it's kind of the like ultimate
having
fulfillment
a
of it.
guy
yeah.
in the front that's like talking trash.
Yeah.
And doesn't like the guy he's on. That's excellent.
Who's the guy that he has a total crush on?
Brad.
Brad.
Yes, Brad. I love the music that plays with that too.
Which they described as like when they were choosing the name, they're like, well, Brad was the douchiest name we could think of.
Sorry to all Brad.
All
listeners.
Brads, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just it looks just clever and fun, and the demo that we saw was hilarious, and it's also their most ambitious project because the Mall and Explosion Man had dev cycles of maybe 6 or so months, and they've already been working on this for a year.
Well, and their other games are sort of one central mechanic, and the environment didn't really change that
Yeah.
much. And Comic Jumper is the complete opposite.
Yes.
There's quite a few mechanics going on. The mechanics are changing all the time. I remember the demo they were showing at PAX East. They showed a section that was like Gunstar Heroes,
Yep.
and then the next it's
awesome.
a side-scrolling beat 'em up. And in addition to that, the visual styles are changing with every stage is a different comic as the main character is trying to maintain his relevancy as a comic character. So this does seem really ambitious for them, but considering what they've been able to achieve elsewhere, Explosion Man being one of my favorite games from last year, I'm excited to see them do something a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Did you happen to say anything at PAX, Andrew? I saw Red Dead Redemption, which I'm not sure if anyone else got a chance
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I didn't get a
actually
chance to
play.
see that.
I am now a firm believer in the horse ass physics.
I'm selling everybody on the horse ass
And
physics.
Horse ass
Adam
theory.
and Abby would come back saying, "Oh, the horses."
Well, that's what I
they look
blurted out in the middle
badass."
thing. I'm like, I've just never seen a horse's ass that looks like that.
And you know what? I'm a firm believer now. Firm believer in the ass physics of
firm
Red.
believer.
firm
It's a beautiful
believer.
looking game.
It is. It's a beautiful looking game. And what I'll say the best thing about Red Dead Redemption is that we always sort of forgive the Grand Theft Auto games for having pretty awful. Some people like them more than others,
They're
but
slow and
they're
clunky.
not what we would like from most games
They
with the
haven't
shooting
quite
mechanics.
changed with the times.
Yeah, like
Saying.
Grand Theft Auto 4 was better. I don't know if I'd go as far to say it was good in terms of the shooting mechanics, but this game feels like the core competency of the shooting is a lot better.
And it fits that slower move. It fits it better. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not
Yeah.
looking for that same kind of fast paced. Oh God, like it just when you're kind of in the desert with a horse and walking around.
No, I don't. Abby,
And
why
the
don't you
horse is
elaborate?
looking real good.
Oh my God, this is gonna become the ongoing. I'm sorry. I'm
Alone
sorry.
in the
I ever
desert
said
with
it.
the horse.
It's a real boner jam.
But
Oh
I-
no.
That's your classic boner
Oh.
jam right there.
One of the things that going back to the Liberty City expansions that I had trouble with was the tap A to run thing. I was
And
like,
it's
why does he
still
need
there.
to
It's still there.
But it's
Wow.
still there. But as a gunslinger, it feels like more natural to kind of stroll
Maybe,
everywhere, and
Yeah.
I didn't really mind
But
it
why
that
can't I
much.
just hold A?
Because that would be too easy.
Okay.
Is there still stamina? Do you run out of stamina even after tapping A?
I
Or
don't
can
know
you
if
just
do
keep
that when
running
you-
as long as you're running?
See, well, because the way the game's sort of moving around work, you don't do a whole lot of running on foot. You'll do a lot of running from building to building, maybe
Okay.
to take cover. Otherwise, you're going to be going slow because a lot of the game, even the shooting's better, but it's not amazing. But they've kind of like how Splinter Cell has the execution mechanic, where you can line up a shot and then it just takes them out without having to aim. This does something called Deadeye, which is the same
Yeah.
sort of idea. So you click the right stick, and then it goes into like the sepia tone look. It's very slow, and as you aim up at an enemy, it'll make an X on them, and you can make multiple X's. So you can aim at their arms, their head, or their leg to take out specific areas. And then you let that go, and it goes boom, 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 boom. And so you can take out 3 enemies at once. And what's nice about this is that in Splinter Cell, you really kind of have to build up to it. It's something
You have
earned.
to earn it, yeah.
In this, in Red Dead Redemption, it's just a meter on the side, and you just got to take out a couple of guys, and then it starts building up again. Now, I'm sure at PAX East it was, sort of, more lax. It was building up faster than it will in the real game, and in the full game, you'll have to build it up. First, it's just slow motion, then eventually get the ability to mark. But either way, they found ways that. In Grand Theft Auto, even Red Dead Redemption, it's going to be hard to get that guy off in the distance. But with this mechanic, you can sort of step around that and not have to worry about
Sure.
it so much.
There is one game at PAX East that I had actually not seen up until this point, and that was APB. I don't know if you guys got a chance to check it out.
Yeah,
I've
played it
seen
for
a little
bit.
bit of it. It gives, and I haven't played it, but it looks like an MMO. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. I just mean like MMOs have a look.
You mean it as a bad thing though, because you don't like
Well,
that.
I don't like MMOs. So the moment that I see that, I'm like, oh, it looks like an MMO.
Is it just
I'm
like the
already
abundance
sort
of information on the screen?
I'm not really sure.
This
I
is
mean,
it's more of a. I mean, it's like a multiplayer shooter with like an expanded ambition more than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I played for a while on it, and like it's an MMO in the sense that it doesn't tell you a lot transparently. Like the interface is like, if I'd gone through a tutorial, I'd be totally fine with it. But like just picking it up, you're like, wait, what does that mean? What does that mean? Where am I? Like, what's going on? And like, but like it made a decent impression on me in the sense that like I can see why being in this city and then suddenly you get a little message like criminals are in trouble, like go help them, and like everybody kind of converges on one point and it sort of just becomes this huge gun battle. I mean, you're fighting over inches of territory at certain points. And it all stemmed from somebody who decided to steal a car out of a parking lot. And like the way that kind of emerges from a very basic one single player action into like a 15-on-15 like gunfight is kind of a neat mechanic.
It seems really good for like short or like medium play sessions, but there's something missing about it that had like there was no like sticky quality like an MMO would have. Like
well,
there's nothing you're really building.
Is it something that would have you there for a long time, other than just like I'm going to jump in, play a couple missions, and get out?
What they were focusing very heavily on goes down to the customization. You'll be able to, they call it celebrity, where you'll be able to create a lot of your own kind of graffiti art or music that translate onto clothing, onto everything else in the game. It's all going to be user generated. I mean, you'll start with some, but we looked through the customization and it's very, very in depth.
There's a 6-track music editor.
The way that the economy in the game, you end up like buying those things or weapons that some people have customized.
And people are good at it, can make them for you, and you can buy them from them.
So
I love the death theme where there's a 6-track full like music synthesizer, and you can design a music like a 5-second music theme that plays every time you kill somebody.
Mine will be the death theme from Lost.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can import your MP3s, and while it won't play your MP3, because I think that goes into some licensing territory, they will find whatever in the game is closest to that.
They'll mimic it.
So Adam and I were talking about we're going to just come down the street like blaring opera, like I don't know, it'd be
Match
fun.
this.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of like becoming famous in the game, but like I totally see what you're saying about like, is there a hook? Is there something to keep you in there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did say flat out this is like APB 1.0, and they're going to keep supporting it. And as they come up with new things and the community wants new things, they'll update it.
Yeah, we were talking about like maybe having the enforcer side go rogue if like the sides were unbalanced, and they're already undercover. They're already thinking of stuff like that. So maybe not the initial product is something to be all excited for.
I almost
there's
feel like
a lot of potential.
I'm going to wait, see what the feedback is, but I'm in the back of my mind already thinking, well, I'm going to jump in at APB 1.5 or 2.0, and they've like figured out sort of these sort of initial missteps.
And what's that for me though? It's like, but it's real-time worlds. And just
I
on
developer
name, on developer name alone, like I have to.
And we were all like this, or most of us were like this before Crackdown came out. Yeah, I want the Halo 3 beta. And then all of a sudden Crackdown was incredible.
And I do understand the hook for notoriety, because when I was playing, there's this guy on a roof called Dimitri, and he was killing everyone right away, and I hated him. So they instantly got me. They instantly got that emotion right away. So
and he knows his kid standing over on like the other side of the.
I tried to keep my cursing now because it
was really bad
right
when
next to me.
Yeah, it was really bad when Fister walked down and like, smacked the kid in the back of the head. We had to pull him off of him. Enforcers were involved. It was really ugly.
But it's and again, it might make a difference when you actually play it yourself and have that attachment to that character.
Yeah, once you get your custom created stuff.
Sure. Prick, did you see anything that stood out?
The one game, again, I will pimp once again as we wrap up PAX East, but it's that the game from the Gaijin Games, Bitship Runner. It's a 8-bit themed music platformer, that rhythm-based music platformer. It's like everything I would want from a video game thrown into something. And not enough people have played their other games, Bitship Core, Bitship Void. All of those are fantastic games, and I understand you don't turn on your Wii very much, and you don't understand, and you get angry that the WiiWare agree button is on the other side, so when you enter in your credit card information, you have to do it all over again 2 or 3 times.
So many times.
It happens to me all the time. I understand, but it's worth checking out for this series of games, because there isn't any real indication they're going anywhere else. So keep an eye on Bitship Runner, because it's one of the coolest games I've played in a while. And they were there at PAX East. But I guess on that note, we should wrap up our discussion.
Sorry, my family is waving at us.
Oh, that's
Hi, Abby's family.
Hi, Abby's
man.
surprise at the end. But again, thanks to everyone that kind of came up and said hi at PAX East. I think we've been going to a lot of conventions lately, and the idea of going to another one kind of got us all a little run down, losing another weekend. But the moment we saw you guys out there saying something to us and saying how much you appreciated what we do, that's what gets us in here again after we got off the flight to do everything again.
PAX is physically demanding, but it's an emotional recharge.
Yeah. And so, okay, so we're going to very quickly do a very quick question of the week. And again, it's something else we've talked about. I'm going to sort of leap off from something we have from Meatball Mamba. He brought up talking about the Nintendo 3DS. He said, do you think Nintendo are likely to give us the first moment where 3D for games truly makes sense rather than just being a visual gimmick? Or they're simply jumping on the bandwagon? One would assume they've learned from the mistakes from the Virtual Boy, right? So now, we haven't learned a whole lot more about the 3DS, but there were some interesting 3DS things at PAX. And one of the things that I heard from a lot of different people was World of Warcraft in 3D kind of looked cool. And as a World of Warcraft guy, Skip, I was wondering if you had a chance to see that at all?
No, I saw. What booth was it at?
It was at the NVIDIA booth.
I saw Battlefield
Yeah,
by
I did
Company in
too.
3D. I also saw a racing game in 3D. And I don't know, a lot of people at the X-Play panel, they hate 3D. They hate the whole idea of it. Adam even hates it. I'm cool with it because every time I've seen it, I've seen MLB in it, and it's awesome for like picking up a pitch. I've seen Stardust in it, and that's awesome for depth. And every time I see it, I'm resistant to put the glasses on because I know actually it's selling me just a little bit more on it. I won't be completely sold until it's glasses free, and that's not going to be probably for a long while. But I don't know.
Yeah.
The 3DS is going to be important because
It's
it's
making
not
me
gonna be
buy a new
glasses.
TV. That's kind of the
Yeah.
part that irritates
Or,
me.
Yeah.
or when NVIDIA's like, do you like this? Don't you want to buy a $200 pair of glasses? Like, no. Well, then you've
No.
immediately just kind of nulled my interest. But the thing I'm waiting for is, like, I put them on, and I was playing Lost Planet 2 for a little while. And for the first couple minutes, it's really damn cool to see the foliage going by your face.
I get
But then
distracted because I'm looking at bushes.
See,
and not at,
that's really the thing, is that after a couple of minutes, you realize they're not playing with the depth at all. So, you know, I saw Alice in Wonderland in 3D a couple of weeks ago, and that's where they just kind of do the, here's 3D really quick, we didn't design the movie in mind, and it's very flat. You get a little bit of depth, but eventually you get bored with that depth. And regardless of what you thought of Avatar, at least they were conscious with how they were using the 3D.
Yeah, and they were
when
good
it
about
was-
that in the game, too, where, I mean, not a lot of people played it in 3D, but I played it briefly in 3D, and one of the things that I was impressed by was the fact that I was picking out enemies because their movement and their behavior in the mid-range distance in the foliage was different than the rest of the foliage. I was picking it out because my eye saw that didn't fit that area, and it wasn't
Yeah.
like spot enemy model. It was something's in that bush. And like that is kind of the thing that I find compelling about the 3D. And you're not going to get that from something slapped on an already 2D game. You're going to get that from, like, Avatar was clearly designed to be in 3D from the beginning, so they were playing with that. And that's what we need to see to sell me on that. And
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Adam.
Do we think Nintendo is going to do that though with the DS, with 3DS?
I mean, at least they're designing it from the ground up. The whole hardware is designed around it, as opposed to everything else we've sort of seen, which is, look, we've got this game and we're going to add 3D, or we're going to see how it works in 3D. You know, Avatar worked because, you know, it had 3D from the beginning. And, you know, if Nintendo did it with motion and everyone hated that the moment they unveiled it, I'm willing to give them the
I
benefit
have
of
to
the doubt.
wonder like how their R&D department is splitting their attention because they have to sell this thing on two different areas now. One of them is 3D on the 3DS, and then they have to do it again with Vitality Sensor. They have to come up with two separate.
forgot that the
things
Vitality Sensor
to
will be
sell
on
these
E3
two
too.
different things.
It is
so
the Poland of video game accessories.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and again, you know, what do they do if they have these new 3D games? Do they have a 2D mode, or do you restrict it to 3D only and ask, you know, these, 70 million DS owners, well, you've got to get a 3D one too, but no, you've got a 2D version. I mean, is that, and then if you have a 2D one, are you limiting what you can do with the 3D by having design?
I gotta
for
wonder
both?
if they're going to do something similar to what they did with even the DS back in the day, where like they put the DS out, but they certainly didn't end the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Like it was like you don't have to buy this, but there's cool stuff here. I mean, if you're interested, check it out. And eventually, everybody just sort of made that migration.
Yeah.
So maybe that's their plan with the 3DS. Maybe they think the stuff like the DS originally was. They think this stuff is so cool and interesting that it'll be able to sort of migrate the user base over to it over time.
they're going to use the same transition period template that they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
Which
I
has
can see
always
that.
worked for them.
Yeah.
Well, and with that, we're going to have to bring this discussion to a close. Thank you to all three of you for joining me. We'll allow Abby to go out and perhaps greet her family now. That I really enjoyed this. So we got
embarrassed
Abby's
now.
family and a Yeti.
And a Yeti. Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly. I'm not sure if I quite believe Abby on that front. But
That was just a random family walking through the lobby. I have no idea who they are.
In any case, thank you guys for coming by. Readers, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming up to us at PAX East that you guys are what allow us to do what we do. And thank you for putting up with me as a host this week. Don't worry, as long as Adam gets out of his fever dream,
Where's Adam?
he will be back. I expect Adam
Go
to be-
away. We like Adam.
It's going to be the first
Get outta
comment,
here.
and I'm okay with that. I'm prepared for it. But anyway, see you guys next week.
Where's Adam?
Hello there. I'm Adam Sessler, host of X-Play, editor-in-chief at G4TV.com. I talk a lot about video games, and sometimes a camera is in front of me when I'm doing that. We call that Sessler's Soapbox. It takes about 2 minutes of your time, but trust me, you will hear invective and joy and probably a lot of rude things like you've never heard before in the context of video games. I do it for you, so you should check it out. It's up every Tuesday on G4TV.com.